Bro, welcome to the channel.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So I just want us to get straight into it, without any waste of time. For the longest time, I've known you for advocating for Carletonville to have its culture.
Yeah.
So what exactly do you mean by Carletonville culture?
So I think we all have an idea of what the word culture means.
Yeah.
The definition of it. That would be ideas, the way of lifestyles, things of that nature. So if you, what I find that we are lacking here is a culture that is informed, where we are deliberately informing this culture to be a certain way that we want it, as opposed to being passive, just going with the flow.
Okay.
So when I thought of a Carletonville culture, I was really thinking about a way where us as young people in Merafong City can deliberately and actively build a culture based on what we think it should be and actively work on it. Whether, be it a culture of entrepreneurship, be it a sporting culture, whatever culture we all decide is ideal, or we should pursue it, and then we actively do it. Yeah.
So it's been like 2 years since you've been saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know so far how we do rate us. Are we coming closer to the dream, or it's just
it would be difficult to rate it, because it would be like rating myself against this ambitious goal that I've put out there. However, we are sitting here in Carletonville merchandise. If you look at the signage outside, it says that this is a Carletonville Culture Initiative. So we are sitting here. That's one of the aspect of it. Probably you're going to want to talk a little bit more about Carletonville merchandise, the shop. But this is once again coming together of different entrepreneurs. It's young people that we all know, and here we are running a shop. So that in some way is pushing a culture of entrepreneurship, or coming together with a common goal. So I'd be very, I wouldn't know where to start to rate whether or not we are there, but there's definitely some traction, there's definitely some activities around this goal.
Yeah. Okay, that is beautiful, man. So still talking of entrepreneurship, it's been something that I've seen a lot on our Facebooks, timelines. People are really doing a couple of things trying to end a keep, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So looking at Carletonville, how serious do you think we take the idea of entrepreneurship, especially as a youth?
Yeah. It's a difficult one, again, to rate or judge people without putting enough effort into trying to understand exactly what you are rating.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you're seeing a lot of social media activity around entrepreneurship. That could be one way of saying it is active, it's alive. We do have a few entrepreneurs. We can name 10 of the top of our heads, which is a good thing. However, what I think might be missing is just being formal about these entrepreneurial ideas that most people have. And by being formal, I mean things like do register a business. If you're saying you're going to be doing this, you take it seriously, you formalize it, and then so if there's a lack, it would be that. But otherwise, I don't think there's a lack of ideas, activities, or will from people. Yeah.
Okay, that is interesting. So I checked, or rather I bumped into one of your posts on Facebook, where you were talking about how we should learn as the youth about Africa and whatever that it has, you know what I mean? So looking at that, why did you find it so interesting or important for the youth of South Africa especially to learn about Africa and, all it has in the resources and stuff.
So I'm very Pan-Africanist in my way of thinking and my way of doing things. And when I'm wearing one of our best brands here, whose only symbol is the African continent. We all know the history of South Africa. We all have an idea of the history of the continent. That we are, a product of what do they colonialism. And what that did, the colonizers knew to divide us along our ethnic traits, along things that don't really matter. And this has resulted in us really seeing ourselves as not one with other African states or with other Africans generally. So with that in mind, if you think about how our liberation struggle was won, it was through collaboration of a lot of our forefathers and the names that we can mention, Kenneth Kaunda, Samora Machel, Nelson Mandela. These are people that were colleagues, they met, or they made effort to communicate. But when I look at the youth, I don't see any element in us, anyway, any focused way, structured way of reaching out of the borders. These borders that were set up by people that never set foot on the continent to begin with. So I don't see any action or mobilizing of us as the continent towards the economic freedom that we all are very much aware that it's the one, not maybe the one thing that's missing, but one of the most important things that's missing to give us a better quality of life. So I think it's quite important for us to start paying attention to other African countries, know about them, educate yourself about Africa, educate yourself as much as possible about the political state of other African countries. I mean, something as simple as the president of Zambia. An average South African doesn't know. You're probably sitting here, you don't know who it is. And things like that. Yet we know who the Prime Minister of London is. Yet we know who the President of the USA is, who it was before him, and before we can keep going back. But if I was to go to the next country, Mozambique, or Lesotho or Botswana for that matter, and say, tell me who the current Prime Minister, or why, which of the countries have Prime Ministers and which of the countries have presidents. People don't even know the political structure of other African countries. So if we don't know such basics about our neighboring countries, then it's not going to make it very easy for us to actually form groups or form institutions or associations amongst ourselves to put our progress in the agenda and work on that.
So there was a study while I was in high school, no, primary. It was called social studies. But it's not done here in South Africa. So it taught us pretty much about Africa and the world, where what is, you know what I mean? So would you, bringing this into South Africa, would you blame the education system to this, what you're saying?
Of course, it's very easy to say we should blame the education system, and of course the education system is to blame, because that is the system whose responsibility or purpose is to inform you about the world. You are saying that you did social studies where you got to learn about other African countries in Lesotho. And what I find is that if you look at other people that come outside of South Africa, they actually know a lot about South Africa. They know a lot about our politics. But when you look at the South African youth and their attitude or the way in which they view themselves, they're really divorced from the continent, which is preposterous. It's like the apartheid system passed. They did a good job, because here we are, ignorant of who we are, ignorant of our neighbors. If anything, not just ignorant, xenophobic. There's this self-hate that's going on that we all know of. And this comes from lack of knowledge, lack of education about these countries, these people. And it's not really these people, it's our people, it's us. It's like living in a house where you know nothing about your mother. It's just that in this case, your mother is another country next to you, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, man.
So I guess that's what I was trying to, that's the conversation I was trying to generate with that post, to just raise the consciousness of people about Africa.
And you know, I think these are some of the important conversations that we really never have when we are online.
Definitely.
Everybody's trying to find jokes and try to be fun or whatever the case is.
True.
You know, so I don't know. Do you look at social media, and especially like in Carletonville, or even if it's South Africa generally, can it be productive in a way?
I am a number one fan of social media. I love social media because what social media has managed to do is remove some of these boundaries that stop people from doing certain things. So number one, social media, if we're going to talk about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's giving a voice to people that never had a voice. It's also it's a platform for connection. You can connect with people that you wouldn't ordinarily connect with. And then in the same way, we can use the very same platform to do all these things that we're talking about. If you follow things like, what's this page that I follow? But it's all about African news, things that breaking news all over Africa. So you can choose on social media which platforms to follow, who to follow or who to pay attention to. And that will be informed by these things that we talked about earlier. If you are conscious, and by conscious I mean you have an interest, you are aware of other African countries, then you would, in fact, maybe 2-3 days ago, Malawi just had a president removed and one put on the state president without any bloodshed, without any war, without any, and that's the first. That's a first for
That's
Africa.
a first, yeah.
It's a first. But that's not trending, you see, because the people that you follow are not particularly interested in that or are not posting about that. If anything, we are posting about things that, if I can say meaningless, there's nothing wrong with making jokes. There's nothing wrong with being easy. There's nothing wrong with entertaining yourself with your friends about something. But you can choose to do it a certain way. Yeah, so that's my view on that. I hope I answered the question.
No, that is actually very interesting, you know. So moving right along, we're in this, like, I'm gonna say it's a beautiful building.
Thank you.
Because, you know, when you guys started this, a lot of us were worried because what you get is that, like, especially for local brands, sometimes they'll have stock, sometimes they won't have stock. Sometime in August, that's when they'll be trying to sell you something from winter.
Yeah.
You know what I
Sure.
mean? So we're worried, like, these guys are going to keep it. Like, now they're going to have fixed costs going on.
Yeah.
And that means that they're going to have a certain amount of money every month and to keep everything running. And you guys have done a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Since it has started. I don't remember if it's like, does it got a year already? Or?
No, so we opened shop on the 31st of August, so we are...
It's not July?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
it
okay.
was August. It was August.
All I remember it was a bit cold and
Yes.
stuff.
So it was towards the tail end of winter. So very soon we will be celebrating our year's anniversary. Yeah.
So that is very interesting, you know. So how do you keep yourself, like, because I'm aware that you're involved in a couple of businesses like Carletonville Merchandise, which is this one, A2B Carletonville,
Sure.
Carletonville Pictures, and most probably others that I don't know about, because
Sure.
at some point you wanted to do some architectural designs,
Yes.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
So what does it take to be this disciplined?
So first of all, it's hard. It's not easy. Telling anyone that it's easy would be lying. And second of all, it's a group effort.
A group effort.
It's a group effort, definitely. Carletonville merchandise is represented by 10 different brands in here. So you can say it's 10 different people or 10 different groups of people that are behind Carletonville merchandise. But you touched on something very important about fixed costs or discipline. Obviously, when you start doing something of this nature, there is a certain level of discipline that you need to maintain in order to be sustainable. Otherwise, it would just crumble and fall. So how we do it really, it's you need to have a group of people that you are that hold you accountable. You are accountable to. There needs to be a group of people that you are accountable to. So as a group of 10 entrepreneurs, we hold ourselves accountable to one another. We make sure that someone is paying rent. We make sure that someone's quality of someone's brand is coming up. Because if you were to come here on the first day, which was the 31st of August, as I was saying, and you look at the quality of clothes on that day, you come back to now, you will see that there is a bit of improvement.
Yeah, there's actually a lot.
In individual things. So the discipline or everything that it takes to be able to maintain and to sustain ourselves has a lot to do with it being a group effort. And then obviously you need someone with the energy to make sure that things happen as you say they need to happen, when you say they need to happen. Because otherwise, if it's just you, it's like promising yourself tomorrow you'll jog in the morning, and then tomorrow it's a bit too cold, and you think, nah, maybe I'll do it next week. So if you've got people holding you accountable, it's like getting a gym partner. The gym partner is there to make sure that they make you feel guilty, or you feel guilty that they are up and jogging when you all agree that you'll be up and jogging. So that's really one of the most important things. There might be things that I've left out, but the group is really important.
Okay, man, that's really dope, because like you guys have done like a lot of like good, what do we say, excellent, marvelous, whatever.
Sure.
Because like you would see somebody would start a business, even Lyle had got that, and on Sunday when you come through, you're trying to have your quota, the same person there now to get Babalasa, just like you. Like, you said you're gonna open at 9. You know. And then if you complaining, I didn't spend that internet. You know what I mean? So this is really dope. So can you tell us more about the other businesses that you're involved in, A2B and Carletonville?
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to touch on this thing that you talked about already. The next day, Babalas just like the rest of us. Obviously, there's a lot of discipline in an individual that is required to do certain things. And I mean, I'm like anyone else, really. There's nothing special about me. If there's one thing that I can point out, is the fact that I think things through and try to come up with a structure of how I'm going to achieve certain goals. And one of the things that I needed to sacrifice, now that's the important thing, I guess, the important word there, sacrifice. I've done a lot of sacrifices in order to make sure all these things are running. And one of the sacrifices I had to do was to stop drinking alcohol. So in September the 11th, it will be a full year of me not drinking.
At all?
Yeah, and I've got no moral agenda. I'm not sitting here or standing at any pedestal. I don't think there's anything wrong with smoking, drinking, or smoking, or having fun in that way. But I had to stop drinking to make sure that I'm here at night to sell you the stuff that we say we're selling. So yeah, I can say also I sympathize with people whose businesses or whose entrepreneurial activities are around being social, because then you get social elements like drinking or whatever that come with that. We don't have to suffer that. We nothing is intoxicating in here. Yeah, or it's intoxicating in a different manner. So on other businesses, you mentioned in the beginning of the interview A2B Carletonville. A2B Carletonville, as everyone should know, is like an e-hailing service here in Carletonville. It's like an Uber, where you are able to call us and we pick you up from point A to point B, which is where the name comes from, A2B Carletonville. Unfortunately, like everyone in South Africa or the world really, we've been affected and impacted by COVID-19, the pandemic and the outbreak. So everything has had to take a step back. But so there's also, talking about Hongamak, there's also so many opportunities that have presented themselves, even because of the pandemic. So when we come back, we'll come back stronger. So that's A2B Carletonville. Outside of that, I think the first business that people started noticing me was when I started Carletonville Pictures, which is the studio photography company.
Actually, when I say you are KEKE or Mikezi, people are like, no, who's that?
Yeah.
Because they know you with that one, Carletonville Pictures, yeah.
So we can even clarify that. So my real name is Mikezi. That's the name that my parents gave me. So the reason people call me Carletonville Pictures is because on Facebook or social media, I decided to actively identify myself as Carletonville Pictures.
Yeah.
So if you had never met me or you don't know me, there's no way you would have known that my name is Mikezi. Or if you know that I'm KEKE, you'd have to have been a friend. So once again, there's a very good example of how you can use social media. I'm not saying everyone must go change their social media names. I'm just saying that I used it as a strategy. And at the moment, my Facebook name is Meya KEKE, so that should also give you an idea of where my mind is at. Yeah. So I used Carletonville Pictures on social media and started selling myself as a photographer, and really went and looked at every other photographer that there is competition, so to speak, and find a way that I was going to be different to the guys that were already established. And the one thing that I found was that there was no studio photography, there was no white backdrop, and that thing is quite simple if you think about it. Everyone else would shoot, but not against the white backdrop. All I had to do was just put a white backdrop, and that makes you look different to the next person. And then before I knew it, customers were coming in and the market was established.
And we never saw it coming. I don't want to lie to you. We have always thought people like taking pictures, go sporo.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of families that actually need like family pictures and stuff like that.
And
Shout out to that, man. I think one of the coolest things about being an entrepreneur is filling the gaps.
For sure.
In an area where you actually arrive at. And so I don't know, because I checked A2B Carletonville. I don't know, you guys are still operating at the moment, or?
So at the moment we are not operating, but that's because we found a few documents that we still need to just get from the traffic department, which was closed because of COVID-19 and. So COVID-19, as much as it has been an obstacle, it has also highlighted some of the things that we need to do formally, as I was saying earlier on, that we need to formalize. So there's certain things that we had overlooked, but luckily for us, it's not a big deal. It's something that we just need to tick and then move on. But coming back to just what I was talking, when I was talking about Carletonville Pictures, one of the things that I also realized when I was going through the other photographers was that they didn't have a focus. You wouldn't see from the person's page or their profile or however they present themselves to you what exactly it is that they are doing. And I made sure that Carletonville Pictures is set out to talk about your family. It's not just you that we want to take a picture of. It's you and your girlfriend. It's you, your girlfriend, and your child. It's you and your mother and your father. It's your girlfriend's mother and father. And then, in that way, we can then infiltrate the whole family at all levels. Your kid is going to school, now we start thinking about school. Your mother goes to church, now we start thinking about churches, because then we can have what do they call it? Word of mouth marketing. Now we can have you talking to your friend Mohomo to say, this is where I did this photo shoot. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. We call it the pink elephant. That every entrepreneur needs to find their pink elephant, the way in which they make themselves stand out against their competition.
So again, I'm gonna go back to your interest.
Sure.
You are interested in maths and science.
Yeah.
I don't know what you studied, but you advocate for maths and science like nobody in this town.
For sure.
So, but now we have a large number of unemployed people that like graduates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is really affecting our society in a very negative way. So we've got the education of people, or rather we've got the education. What do you think we could actually be doing with this education now, since that companies can absorb people no more?
Yeah. So, man, that's a tough one. Unemployment is a tough one. Maybe let me talk to the maths and science, and then we'll see how far I can give my opinion as far as the education and the unemployment of graduates and so on. So I'm obsessed about knowing things. And things are normally things that are very practical. We're sitting here, you've got a cell phone in your hand, we've got a light, we've got a camera. So the way in which my mind works, normally just I want to know more. So what is a cell phone? What does it have inside? How is it that you can actually make that call? Or when you swipe your card, from that point of sale system to you getting an update on your from your bank, how are all those things working together to make your life easy? So one way you can find answers to all those questions is normally mathematics and science. One way or the other, it will come down to maths and science. So really my obsession is with knowledge, and maths and science are just the tools for which you can really use to try and understand pretty much everything around us. So how do we then get graduates, or why is it that we've got unemployed graduates, or what do we do with these unemployed graduates? I honestly don't have the answer. I wish I had the answer. I mean, there is no one perfect answer, I think, for that question. But I do think it goes back to a culture of what we understand education to be. We are currently under lockdown. Probably over 90% of our children are not learning. Most likely. They are sitting at home, watching television. So most likely the content that they are being exposed to is not necessarily educational. So they could be watching TV, but it could be educational TV, but it's not. Or they are outside playing, which is worse because of this pandemic that we have. So I think we need to start thinking differently of education. Don't think of education as that thing of where you study and then you get a better grade and then ultimately you get a job. But education should be looked as something that opens your mind to the world, how you understand the world. And then it must give you a critical mind to be able to come up with solutions. So the solution of unemployment, of education, if you are educated and you are unemployed, then I don't think we are using the word educated properly. You're not educated, because an educated mind needs to find a solution. Yeah.
So do you think like the idea of that perspective of finding a solution, is it because of how school is being presented to us, or it's on us about how we think about
Definitely, you can't divorce it from school or the schooling system. If you look at its evolution, it was built for a workforce, for an economic outcome of some sort. So of course we go to school and we just see a job after the graduation. But in the times that we live in 2020, where we live in the information age, it should be maybe not obvious, but everyone should be aware that maybe things have changed and we then need to pivot and use these tools for something different. Entrepreneurship is trending right now, it's buzzing, but what does it mean? So if you are educated, you should be trying to mix your education with some entrepreneurial skill that you might have or that a friend has, and who knows if that could end up filling the gap of the unemployed youth, because we know for sure that in South Africa, majority of people that are employed by small businesses. Yeah.
Okay, that is very interesting. So we're gonna move right along
for sure.
To some other interesting topic.
For sure.
I probably know you like this one.
Okay.
I don't know if you had some other things you wanted us to discuss before we wrap up.
Well, maybe if there's one thing I can say or make an example of, not so long ago. And we had built a little scenario where one of our associates, but now, how can you go there? In the roto, in a little chips, in a little balloon. There's a value chain that we are not a part of. We are right at the end. Why is it that we can't think, hore, and then you got to register on Kuzon go fair. But what extent you got to go fair as opposed to having every third house register board. So I would think that education makes you think, look at such things and analyze them, break them down into different value chains, and then use that information or that whatever you have to your advantage. But yeah.
You guys heard, there's a business idea.
Sure.
So one of now this reminds me of the post that you made. You were actually quite angry, I think, the previous week. You were complaining about recommending someone for a service.
Yes.
And now they keep failing the customers.
Yeah.
And now you feel so sad or angry about it.
Definitely.
How do you think we should approach that scenario? Because we have a problem of, if now I recommend someone to you and you don't deliver the service, now we come back blanketing all black businesses.
Yes. Saying
all black businesses, or rather black businesses don't deliver well. Do you think that is the right approach, or somebody should be saying, KEKE is not doing the right thing when it comes to customer service?
Yeah. So sure, you are right. I did share some frustration on social media about having recommended someone but they don't deliver. But I want to take out my personal feelings about the particular individual or my frustration of the day and just look at this thing from a bigger picture. So if we're going to talk about supporting black businesses, it means there is some form of a movement, a political or ideological positioning of ourselves as black businesses. So we are thinking black businesses. So I want to challenge everyone that if you find a black business that does not deliver, that's no reason to not support black businesses. That's a reason for you not to support that individual business. Move on, find another black business. We should commit to supporting black businesses, even if it means that we are crying through it. That's the type of political consciousness I would like to see, where even though we are blaming, we realize that there is no other option but to keep supporting. And failure is not a bad thing. So if someone didn't deliver it, yes, immediately to you at that time, it's probably the worst thing for your day on that day. But I really believe that no entrepreneur woke up, started doing business, and was perfect. So perhaps what we can do is to just work on communicating with customers when we have let them down. Have systems where you actually engage with customers. For example, Carletonville Pictures, we do an after-service survey for customers to tell us how they found from the reception to the pictures, to how long it took, to everything about the experience that the customer had. And that way, it's a feedback mechanism or a feedback loop that tells us how to improve. So perhaps that's one thing that we should start doing more, finding ways of getting feedback from customers, engaging customers, and coming out to apologize when you've done wrong, and trying to improve and be serious about it.
Wow. That is actually very profound. I love it. You know what I mean?
Thanks.
So now I want us to move to the next section,
Sure.
which is very current at the moment, or rather, which is trending.
Yeah.
We have a problem of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, or rather in my perspective, this has been happening since I could remember.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, you know, if you could sit down, could you identify anything that you could say, these are part, or these are the root causes of this problem?
Yeah. Sure. That's a tough one. Gender-based violence is definitely a thing, a big thing, that cannot be ignored. It's a problem, and I guess the type of technology that we have at the moment, it makes it more visible. It's magnifying the problem. So, you know, when you say magnifying, it's as if it's small, it's making it big. No, the problem is big. It's just making it, it brings it closer. Yeah, it's bringing it closer to us to see that it's there. The root causes of it really, I think, are very much entrenched in a society that's patriarchal. It's patriarchy. It's a toxic masculinity. We know amongst our friends and us that when we are out there, what we say about women, or when we've had a few drinks, how we interact with women. We think we have the right to put our hands on ladies when we're out there. So it's a culture that's so deeply entrenched, and I have no clue where we should start really with facing it. But one way is to have conversations such as this one, is to open the dialogue, the discussion, the debate, and constantly trying to find solutions.
Okay, so I had the other perspective. I don't know what you're going to say about it. I know it's like, now we're on set and you have to think about it.
Sure.
So I was thinking that one of the problems is the culture of objectifying women.
Yeah.
And when I say objectifying women, I'm putting everybody in it.
For sure.
So the first was through the practice of lobola, you know, where women would get into marriage and then cannot come back because
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now she's like an object that was used to make a transaction.
Yeah.
You know, and also now coming to also women again, we have the culture of, can you maintain me? So putting that into consideration, now I feel like they get presented as something that should be earned. You know, it's like you're buying a car and you know, so I don't know, I'm not promoting it, but now gents start thinking, oh, but I bought you beers, I did this, I did, well, why can't you deliver?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, what does that make sense to you?
No, of course, I completely get it. And it's not even difficult to get because it is that ubiquitous. You find it everywhere. But with that said, this gender-based violence thing, obviously it's not a South African thing, it's not a Carletonville thing.
Yeah.
However, South Africans, we are the rape capital of the world.
Well,
South Africa.
Okay, wow, that I didn't know.
Yeah, we are the rape capital of the whole world. And we are a mere 60 million people. There are countries with so many more. So there's definitely a problem in South Africa. And it probably has its roots in the apartheid system. The fabric of our society was really distracted by apartheid. And when we ushered the new dispensation of freedom, there's obviously things that were overlooked, or we didn't even realize just how deep the crack was. Because the dowry system, it's not unique to us. It's there in other cultures.
Yeah.
So we can't use that as an excuse, or we can't use that as a reason why we do something. What we should be doing is saying they are doing the same thing. By the same thing now I'm talking about paying off a bride or things of that nature. And we are doing it. Why is it that we feel entitled to harm someone else because your expectations are not met, or because you feel your manhood has been challenged in one way or the other? So I really don't have an answer to the GBV question, but I think it should be a conversation that we talk about. It should be something, when we said Carletonville culture, we would need to have activists that go out there to inform people. Here in the shop, I don't know, here on the table we actually do have a little booklet. Siriso, if you can just find it for us, it's black. It should say something about gender-based violence. It's things like that. Actively putting these things out there. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's being able to have things like this just handy. That are going to force you to read gender-based violence is a national crisis. It affects every South African. It destroys lives. It devastates families and threatens the safety of our loved ones. And the thing is, we don't have these conversations. You don't find things like this in places that we go to. And people are very, they're not very open to discuss such things. Homosexuality, the way in which we deal with homosexuality, it's still a problem.
Yeah.
Because homosexuality now becomes a thing to deal with, when it shouldn't be a thing to deal with. The same way that we don't have to deal with your straightness. No one is dealing with being straight. So we should equally not have a problem with dealing with homosexuality, but we do have that problem. So psychologists really need to come out there and find ways, or engage with us in a way that is going to make sure that we get rid of these backward practices.
This problem.
Yeah.
So we already have kids right now.
Yeah.
You know, and as we spoke earlier, we spoke about uniting as the youth of South Africa, so that we could achieve maybe some economic freedom and some other good things. You know.
For sure.
So
the good life.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a wrong thing, but now we're starting to see like women have their own clubs where they put it up front and like that they put it out there that no men is allowed in here. Yeah. And we have other clubs of men as well. You know, so what do you think we could do as a society right now so that we raise our kids united without this gender-based violence problem, so that they could actually be united and achieving more things in the future?
Yeah. Look, man, I think if there's one other thing that we are all very much aware of, is the absence of fathers in their children's lives. Perhaps we also come from backgrounds where our fathers were missing in our lives, and we don't know how to be men because we don't know how to model. We don't have a good role model, or we don't have a good modeling system about what it means to be a parent or to be a father. Or we had parents that are so different to our generation that maybe the conversations were transactional. Maybe your father, the only time he spoke to you was when he was sending you somewhere, or when he was asking you if something is okay. But you never sat down to talk about gender-based violence. You never sat down to ask him, before you met my mother, did you have other girlfriends? You don't sit with your father and talk about masturbation.
Yeah, well.
So this thing it doesn't have one silver bullet as a solution. It is so many different aspects of the same thing. But if there's one thing that I think us as a generation can do differently, is to try to be present in our kids' lives, and while being present, to change how we engage or interact with our kids. Talk more to them, know about their interests, and have activities around their interests such that they are comfortable being with you, they are comfortable talking to you, and yeah, I really think that could be very helpful.
Well, I love it. So I'm gonna swap some questions.
Sure.
So we have the cancel culture.
Yeah.
And we also have people that have done mistakes, or let's just say that have been abusive.
Yes.
And they are finding it out that that was so wrong, and they are remorseful and stuff.
Yes.
So taking the cancel culture, how do we deal with these people that are saying that now they want to be better and they want to stop whatever that, or rather they have stopped and they want to come back to the society and actually be part of the solution?
Yeah, yeah, that's also another deep question, because when you talk of cancel culture, just to make sure, we're talking about a scenario where maybe someone was convicted of a crime or is judged to have done something bad, and then even when they are trying to make up for their mistakes, the community now just ostracizes them. We want nothing to do with them. We don't want to hear from them. They are bad people and they must die or something like that. That's what you mean by cancel culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a difficult one, because here we are with gender-based violence, and we know that the victims of gender-based violence are women. So the gender-based violence, it's not women abusing men, it's men abusing women. Right? Yeah. The problem that we have in South Africa. The rape cases that we have in South Africa, it's not women raping men, it's men raping women.
I don't know if we can like 100% say that, because some guys would be like, but that's because some men don't report, some men get laughed at when they go report these cases, you know. But yeah, let's just use statistics.
Which would be a problem on its own that we'd need to deal with, because it's probably linked to the patriarchy. The fact that you are ashamed to do it, it means that there's a culture around you that is set along the gender line, where a certain gender cannot do certain things because you would be seen to be lesser of whatever that means to you people as a culture, as a group. But the cancel culture thing, it's about time that we pay attention to it. The 23-year-old boy that rapes a girl was a 13-year-old boy 10 years ago. He comes from a community that let a 13-year-old boy grow up to be a future rapist. Same as the 30-year-old guy who kills his wife was a 20-year-old young, energetic teenager about 10 years ago. So we definitely need to start thinking of the boy child, and trying to see if there's any things, any programs, any effective solutions that we can put in place to make sure that we catch it before it gets to where it is now. Yeah, so it's definitely important for us to be mindful of that. So I don't know if that answers to the cancel culture or the...
Well, you're passionate.
Passionate.
Yeah.
Because if someone has gone to prison to do time for their crime, we should have faith in the justice system when it releases them into the community, that that person has been rehabilitated. Ultimately, that's what prison is supposed to do. It's supposed to rehabilitate you. You're supposed to come out changed. It's not that you're going to prison and come out worse. But of course, we know that's not the reality. And we can't really solve all things, but I do think that people deserve a second chance. People deserve a third chance. People deserve a fourth, the fifth, and the sixth chance, within reason.
Hey, some people are gonna kill me for letting you say that because you're gonna hear them saying, but the victim is traumatized, the mental health, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of which is very understandable, you know, given also where they are, you know, because of the activity that happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you know, looking at South African justice system, I don't know, people were sad about some other person, I don't remember exactly, but they got bail from killing or raping, something like that.
Yeah.
Recently, you know. So looking at South African justice system, what do you think of it?
First of all, I'm a, and this is going to sound a little counter to what I was saying earlier. I'm a patriot. I'm very patriotic about South Africa, the country. I think we have one of the best countries in the world. And I think we have a very good justice system. In South Africa, you can take the president to court if you decided that you have a case to do so. There's no one above law. You can take a cop, you can go report a policeman at the police station, and you're not necessarily going to be harassed. Other countries outside of our country here on the continent, if you just said the wrong thing about the head of state, you could suffer consequences and your family, so on and so forth. Anecdotes, stories from a personal point of view tend to distort the real picture. When you have been a victim of a stabbing, of course, that violent crime to you, it seems so big and so like something that needs to get dealt with in the harshest possible way. But when we look at things through a scientific lens, should we stop? Okay. You start getting a different idea. So in a nutshell, you can never be happy with any system that governs society because there's always room for improvement. Our justice system has, man, there's so many things that could be better, but we have to acknowledge that it's there. Can you imagine if we didn't have cops?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if all the criminals that are in prison right now were not in prison? They are. You feel safe. Yes, you think you'll get mad when you're walking around the streets late at night. But I get a great sense of consolation knowing that the worst criminal I can imagine is behind bars.
Okay. Now, looking at how things are right now, because I believe that the pandemic we have right now, it has sort of like made us aware of a couple of other things. Of course, a lot of other things were sort of amplified and stuff like that, like the one we're talking about, the gender-based violence, and most probably also crime, you know what I mean? Looking at the pandemic, it has sort of like highlighted some other things that we need to pay attention to. So looking into the bright future right now, and taking this as the new reality, what do you think is the future of entrepreneurship, especially for the startups?
What a difficult question. The future for entrepreneurship, startups, COVID-19. Yeah, that's a difficult one. So there's this company that I learned about. They call themselves Zulzi.com.
Zulzi.
Z-L-U-Z-I, Zulzi.com. Started by, what's this guy's name? It's a vendor name. It's a nice name. I like vendor names.
Wow, oh, okay, so it's South African.
Yeah, it's South African. So
when it says Zulzi, I'm thinking, oh man, it's another 10-cent company.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Zulzi is local, South African.
Yeah.
Local, but not Carletonville.
Yeah.
It's a guy who basically sells food online. But he's partnered with these big stores like your Pick and Pays, your Checkers, your Woolworths.
Oh, so food, you mean groceries?
Yes,
all right.
Groceries.
Yeah.
So you go online, you click what you want. They promise that they will deliver all your stuff from all these different shops within an hour.
Okay, that is interesting.
So this guy was saying how their forecast, their financial forecast, where they thought they would be next year March, because of COVID-19, they reached it this year in March, just as we went into lockdown, because more people needed the service. So I might not know exactly where we are headed to, but companies like Zulzi gives me the hope. It shows me that there is hope, and it shows you that if you set your sales right, if you prepare yourself, then something that is a pandemic to one person becomes a luck to you. Because now these guys, I remember last time I checked, Zulzi was valued at just a little under 500 million.
For real?
Yeah.
So, wow, okay, I'll actually check where is it operating and stuff.
For sure.
Because I honestly thought at some point, oh, why don't I just send A to B Carletonville to go do my things?
Yes.
Because, I don't want to be on the queues anymore.
And that's definitely another wing of Carletonville, of A to B Carletonville. We call it Tumamina.
Tumamina,
yes. So it's the Tumamina service. In fact, I came to find out about Zulzi and other businesses like this because I was doing my research on how we are going to make A to B be able to also do your groceries and so forth. So that's one thing that's also coming, I suppose, from A to B Carletonville. There'll be more effort put on that. It's a concierge service. So if you want us to take your dry clean, we should be able to take your coat to the dry cleaners and any other thing that you can think of that's legal. So there's definitely, we need to be hopeful. The future is bright. I mean, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you are right. I mean, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you probably are right. So we just need to change our mindset. We need to be very picky about the type of content that we consume, and there's stuff out there. There's great stories out there. If you go out to find them, you will find them. They will inspire hope in you, and before you know it, you can really be the ultimate whatever it is that you want to be. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, man, for this conversation.
Thank you so much for the difficult questions. These are very hard.
This was very hard.
Harder than maths problems.
Wow. Because I thought, I was like, you're just gonna run with
it. No. These were very hard.
Yeah.
That got me thinking.
I really had a good time because I thought for the longest time we need to have these conversations.
And thank you for the opportunity.